Welcome to the U.S. Daily Brief channel. In the 8th month of the war, the Ukrainian army brought its offensive operations against Russian troops almost to their peak. As the conditions of the war begin to get tough for both sides, the advantages of the Ukrainian heroic army's superiority over the Russians in this process in terms of inventory are clearly evident on all fronts in the Ukrainian territory. Zelensky's valiant soldiers encircled the Russian troops, particularly in Kherson, one of the southern regions of Ukraine, in a ring of fire. The Russian administration has put its retaliation plans into action with all its might to get rid of these pressures by Ukraine. In the past 24 hours, Russian forces have carried out more than 30 cruise missiles, 7 airstrikes and 25 artillery strikes in the southern regions of Ukraine. These operations carried out by the Russian troops show that the Russians are playing their last trump card. Because these attacks by the Russians could not go beyond targeting the innocent civilians of Ukraine and Ukrainian infrastructures. Likewise, the Russian troops, after carrying out these offensive operations, became almost dead silent and began to anxiously wait for the Ukrainian forces to respond to these attacks. If the Russian army inventory had the potential to continue these attacks, Vladimir Putin's army would not have expected the Ukrainian army to respond to these attacks and the Russian operations would have resumed. But the Russians have started to unconsciously use and consume the missiles and other attack ammunition they have. In response to these attacks of the Russian forces, the Ukrainian heroes suddenly started the dawn operations in the town of Berislav in the Kherson region. Seeing the increase in the number of attacks of the Russian forces as a threat, Zelensky's heroic army started to feel the effects of Ukrainian domination by taking all precautions in the southern region of Ukraine. The last operation carried out by the heroes of Ukraine managed to create serious repercussions by influencing the entire world agenda. A convoy of more than 20 Russian tanks cruising in the southern region of Ukraine was targeted by the heroic Himars artillery of Ukraine. While the Russian tank convoy continued to advance on its course, the Ukrainian Himars artillery units waited for this convoy to enter the range area. As soon as the Russian tank convoy entered the firing range, the Ukrainian Himars artillery units shattered this Russian convoy in seconds with the missile attacks they launched. After the attack, more than 20 Russian tanks were burned to the ground. The video of these attacks, organized by Ukrainian heroes, broke records on social media. In the video of the attack by the Ukrainian Himars troops on the Russian convoy, the moments of the explosion of the Russian tanks were recorded second by second. The Russian administration has so far made no statement after these attacks. Thanks to this latest attack by Ukraine, the Russian army was seriously injured. The Ukrainian army, on the other hand, continued to strengthen its power and continued to receive weapon aid from the USA and its Western allies. The latest weapon aid sent to Ukraine came from the US government. A new batch of Himars systems was delivered from the USA to Ukraine. Ukrainian Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov said, 4 additional Himars from our US partners. I thank President Joe Biden, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and the American people. Himars time. Good time for the Ukrainians and bad time for the invaders, expressed the celebration of the new version Himars with these words. The last 4 Himars long-range missile systems sent by the US government are a little different from the other Himars used by Ukraine. Since the new version Himars have a longer range and better firing capability, they can easily destroy point targets. The Russian administration, which went into a state of alarm with the arrival of these weapons to the Ukrainian army, still could not be as effective as the Ukrainian army, even though they carried out many offensive operations on the territory of Ukraine. It was recently revealed that in the early hours of the day in the Russian-occupied city of Kherson, 5 explosions were heard. Meanwhile, it is known that Ukrainian forces killed 100 Russian soldiers and destroyed many Russian bases during fierce clashes in the Kherson region. The city, the administrative center of the larger Kherson region, was one of the first to fall to Russian forces, which began invading Ukraine in February. Earlier on Wednesday, Ivan Fedorov, the exiled mayor of Russian-controlled Melitopol in the south of the Zaporizhia region, voiced a strong explosion in the city on the Telegram messaging app. The RIA reported that a device exploded near the city's central market, citing local police based in Russia. The RIA reported no casualties. Officials in Kiev said Russian missile strikes damaged more than 10 cities in Ukraine, including Lviv, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Zaporizhia. An update released by the British Ministry of Defence on Monday following these remarks revealed, Ukrainian offensive operations continue to put pressure on Russian forces in Kherson Oblast, both in the northeast and south. However, Russia continues to launch its own offensive operations in the central Donbass region, especially near the town of Bakhmut. Continues to give high priority. Their statements clearly show the pressure exerted by the Ukrainian army in this region. During the past week, Russian forces advanced up to 2 kilometers towards 2 Ukrainian cities and came close to entering Bakhmut, which was badly damaged by the shelling. These forces likely included Wagner private military company units, including personnel recently recruited from Russian prisons. In the face of serious threats on Russia's operational flanks, Ukraine's efforts to advance its grinding Donbass offensive underline the imperative to ensure operational success, while also underscoring the inflexible operational design that has so far undermined Russian plans. Following all these developments, Ukraine's Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov welcomed additional Western military aid, which he said would help Ukraine defend itself against Russian airstrikes. Reznikov announced on Twitter on Tuesday evening that the Ukrainian military had received 4 high-motion artillery rocket systems, which were previously used to disrupt Russia's war effort. He also stated that the National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems, which the Ukrainian authorities are trying to protect against Russian missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles, are on the way. Reznikov's announcement came amid a wave of Russian missile attacks targeting Ukrainian cities. In addition to NASAMS, Reznikov stated that Ukraine has already received Iris-T air defense systems from Germany. "This is just the beginning," Reznikov said. "And we need more. There is no doubt that Russia is a terrorist state. Protecting the sky over Ukraine is a moral imperative to save our people." He underlined the importance of weapon support with his statements. Earlier on Tuesday, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced that Ukrainian forces across the country shot down 21 wing rockets and 11 drones fired by Russia. The attacks came on the second day when Russian forces carried out a series of airstrikes on Ukrainian cities, including Kyiv, in retaliation for the explosion at the Kerch Bridge connecting Russia with the occupied Crimean Peninsula. These attacks gave new urgency to the promises of Ukraine's Western allies to deliver air defense systems. Germany said on Monday it would deliver 4 of its Iris-T air defense systems, which fire short-range missiles from the ground, to Ukraine in the coming days. The Biden administration has previously signed on to deliver a total of 8 NASAMS to Ukraine. White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby stressed at a news conference last day that the first 2 NASAMS shipments will be delivered in the very near future. Hoping to see you again with developments. Don't forget to follow our channel and turn on notifications to be notified of new videos.